That is why the low back hurts so many people. Over 60% of golfers have back pain. So, and it's not because of the golf swing, it's because the body's not ready to do the golf swing. What's going on, Golf Fitness Bomb Squad? This is Chris Finn here. I'm your host, and I'm just excited to basically have your attention for the next maybe 10 minutes, because it is going to be hopefully some of the most productive time you spend this week on getting better, not just off the course, and that's kind of typically what we talk about, but I also want to share in terms of how we tracked the PGA Tour players and LPGA Tour players and long drive players. How do we track, how do the best in the world track their progress? So when we get with a new player, and we do this obviously with our high level amateurs, I honestly do this myself too, because I'm a golf nut and I want to get better. And the reason that this kind of hit me was actually just talking to my buddy. He just played in a club championship and was kind of sharing some stats. It's talking about how he wants to get better, and it was really apparent that he wasn't really sure what stats to track and what they meant, and how that would influence, what he does in terms of trying to get better. And so I think, obviously at P4S Golf, we're super focused on the data and the metrics in the gym and physically, because that's what drives in terms, what we spend our time on the physical side of things. So, for those of you who don't know, on the physical side, you have your four rotary centers. You have your hips, your shoulders, specifically your hip internal rotation, your shoulders external rotation, your spine rotation, and your neck rotation. So internal rotation is what we use in our hips when we rotate into our trail leg. We internally rotate in our trail leg, and when we rotate into our follow through impact, we are internally rotating into our lead leg. External rotation is your trail arm. What that has to do, kind of bend backwards, almost like a pitcher when they go to throw the ball. That's what has to happen as you come down through impact. And then spinal rotation is basically the thoracic spine, from think kind of like underneath the bottom of your neck to your belly button. That's where most rotation occurs in the spine. And then you obviously have your neck as well. There's a lot of rotation that occurs there. The low back, where a lot of people get pain, that's actually the area that's not supposed to rotate, but we usually are limited in one of these four areas. And so we end up trying to use the low back to make up for it. That is why the low back hurts so many people. Over 60% of golfers have back pain. So, and it's not because of the golf swing, it's because the body's not ready to do the golf swing. So we always look there physically, bottom of the pyramid. I always talk about the old food pyramid we used to get in school, right? And that the base was like all your carbs, right? The base in golf performance is mobility. And if we don't have that mobility, we can't get from point A to point B. Nothing else matters. Next level up is going to be how strong are you? So your strength numbers and your power metrics in the areas that actually, move the needle when it comes to producing clubhead speed. And then the third is clubhead speed. And we look at that all across the golfer's age range in terms of sex and demographics. So in age range in terms of, if you're a 55-year-old woman, your percentiles are going to be different than a 55-year-old man, because men tend to swing faster. They tend to be a little stronger. So, in terms of what's normal, and if you're faster or stronger or weaker or slower, is going to depend based on those metrics. And that's where we've built the database after working with over 10,000 golfers at this point. Might be more by the time you're listening to this, but we're continually updating that database so that people can see in real time with their specific metrics at their specific age, where they stand, right? And so that's where we're always assessing and tracking those metrics to understand from a physical perspective, how is the body doing? Are we maintaining mobility? Do we have enough for the goal that we're trying to go after? Are we strong enough to get there? Are we elastic and powerful enough? Is our clubhead speed, below where it should be based on where we are physically? Is it, faster than what our body can support, and therefore we're at a higher risk of injury, right? Those are all the assessments that we're constantly doing. Now, when it comes to the golf course, I've had the opportunity, I've been very blessed and gotten to work with some of the best coaches in the game. And what I want to do is break it down real simple for you, in the same way that we're always assessing and tracking our mobility and our strength and our power and our clubhead speed on the physical side. On the course, I think people for some reason, golfers don't track some really simple things that can give you a lot of information. So very simple. You have fairways hit, greens in regulation, number of putts that you take, and then you have your up and down percentages. If you want to get even a little crazy, you could even track your proximity to the hole, when you're approaching with your scoring clubs, say, you're 8-iron and less, right? So literally greens, fairways, number of putts, proximity to the hole on the approaches, and then up and down. So it's 5 stats from those basic 5. So you've listened enough, simple, stupid simple is kind of the goal as always, right? So fairways is going to tell you how well are you getting off, off the tee box. So for instance, my buddy, he hit, I think he said like 12, he played 2 rounds. I think it was like he hit maybe 12 of 28 fairways, right? So, a good player is generally going to be 60% plus fairways. So he's obviously under 50%. So there's some room there. And then you can always go a little bit deeper. Well, tell me about those misses. Well, he says, 6 of those misses, took me totally out of the hole, and 3 of them were penalty shots. Okay, clearly losing some strokes there, right? This is where you start to do analysis of your game. So, well, how many strokes did you lose, right? I think he said he probably lost 6 strokes just off the tee. And then, then you got to ask, well, of all the fairways you missed, were you like, 2 yards off in the rough, or were you like bunting out of trees, right? Or in heavy, thick rough where it totally altered your life? So that gives you an assessment of your driver game. Greens and regulation. How many greens did you hit, right? Good players, scratch players are better, generally going to hit, 10 to 12. Generally the rule of thumb is you hit 12, you should be able to shoot par. Obviously assuming up and down game, we'll get there, right? So generally, you're looking, 12 out of 18 greens. I think that's, let me do the quick math. I believe that's pretty much 60%. Just want to confirm. 12 divided by 18 is 67%. So 2/3 of the greens hit. And then you can track, obviously, how many putts you took. Generally, really good players are going to be, low 30s, 32 or less. If you get into the 20s, fantastic. But that's like world class. So I generally think, 30 to 32, kind of a great place to be. And then you're looking at up and down percentage. So really good players, our scratch players, are generally going to be, again, in that kind of 2 out of every 3-ish range, right? So ease of stats, think 6 out of every 10 fairways, 6 out of every 10 greens, and 6 out of every 10 up and downs should kind of be the minimum goal if you're looking to really kind of get to a good level. And obviously, if you're better than that, you raise those bars up a little bit. If you're not even close to that, maybe we see, like, for instance, my buddy, he didn't even hit 50% of fairways. We say, all right, let's make our next goal to get to 50%, right? So now you start looking across all of those. Actually, and I forgot the last one, proximity to the hole. So that obviously will influence, and this is where you got to kind of take it all with a grain of salt, right? If you miss 15 greens and you only have 28 putts, it may not mean you're a great putter. It just may mean that you're chipping it to, you have a lot, pretty close, and you have a lot of short one putts. So you may have, as you hit more greens, you may actually see that you have more putts, right? So, but I think it's just a very basic framework that works and coincides really well with what we look at on the physical side, where you have literally 7 things that you track. If you take out club head speed, you're 6, right? You got your 4 rotary centers, and then you got your strength and your power, right? So if we look at, so 6 things. And then if we look at the on course, very similar, a handful of things with greens, fairways, putts, proximity, and then up and downs. And you don't even need to do proximity. Just if you're starting out, just start with just basically, up and down is going to tell you how good are you at your short, how good is the short game? Do you need to spend more time there? 150 or 100 or 50 to 100 yards and in. And then you can even, for those of you stat nuts out there, start breaking it down. Like, well, how close am I better at 50 yards than I stink and at 40 to 20, right? And that's where you start really starting to understand your game, and you say, hey, maybe when I'm laying up and I can't get there, I want to leave it to a specific number because I know statistically I'm really good and comfortable from that range, right? Mind blown. All of a sudden, there's you're playing your golf game a little better, right? And I'm I'm a decent golfer. I think I'm about a 0 right now, so I guess that's technically scratch. But I look at my own game and I say, wow, I got so much more that I can do to get better. And I think that's just a basic framework. When we talk to our tour level pros, I mean, the amount of stats they keep is unreal. This is a goal of this is kind of just a little bit of an intro into, a little bit pull the curtain up of, hey, these are just some of the basic things that you can start with. And if you want to start tracking more things, obviously there's, decade golf, and you can go, completely statistic driven. But I think to me, this framework gives you a very clear idea of simply just to see, hey, do I have any glaring holes in my game? Is it getting off the tee? Is it I hit a bunch of fairways, and this is me. I hit over 70% of fairways, but my greens have been my big struggle with my wedges in terms of, if I am hitting, 12 to 14 greens, my proximity is not great, right? So for me, it started initially hit more greens. Now it's I got to get closer, so I have fewer putts, right? And so I think you continually will be able to evolve, but the stats particularly if you track them, it's really cool to look back. I do it every 10 rounds. I kind of do an aggregate so I can see, hey, how are we getting? Are we getting better? Are we getting worse? But at the very least, it's easy to do on a scorecard at the end of the round to do a quick analysis of man, I did really great off the tee, or man, I did great putting, or my up and downs were god awful. I need to do some work there. So hopefully just quick little framework here for everybody out there. Obviously, on the physical side, the home assessment is always a great tool. We're always assessing the 4 main rotary centers just to make sure you're maintaining those. And then obviously your power outputs and strength outputs relative to other golfers your age, and making sure your percentiles match to where your club head speed is. That is a great thing to do, every 8 to 12 weeks or so, just to make sure we're maintaining. Mobility you can honestly do every 4 weeks, every month. But then on the golf side, definitely track your greens, track your fairways, track the number of putts you're taking, track the percentage of time you get up and down, and then even tracking the proximity. And that's very simple. When you get to the green, just walk it off. How many steps did it take from the hole to your ball? And you'll start to see some really interesting trends there. And hopefully this kind of super simple framework kind of helps you guys play a little bit better golf. We talk a lot about being able to be pain-free and kind of enjoy the game. I don't know about you, but for me, enjoying the game is shooting good scores. And this has been something that's been super helpful for me, that I picked up from some of the better coaches in the country. And hopefully by sharing it with you, that'll help you guys play some better golf. So hopefully that helps you guys out, fellow Bomb Squad members, that you can, really kind of diffuse hopefully some of those big numbers on the golf course and start to really optimize your practice. We're big on, get into the gym less than 90 minutes over the course of a week. You should be able to take care of everything that you need to physically. Same thing on the golf course. If you know exactly where you need to focus, you can have much more focused, efficient practice, and make the most out of your time, because, we're all busy. So thanks for hanging out with me today, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode.